A crash like a linebacker colliding with a quarterback woke me, and I shot straight up in bed. I blinked at the clock beside me, trying to make sense of the world. Red numbers glowed in the darkness. 3:23. It was 3:23 in the morning. Why was I awake at 3:23 in the morning? Had I dreamed the crashing sound? "Cameron?" my mother called from down the hall. "Cameron, was that you? Are you all right?" Thunder. No, footsteps. Feet pounding down the hall. Someone was coming for me. Half-remembered childhood nightmares seized me, and I scrambled backward across the bed in a panic, trying to get away from Voldemort, the Joker, the aliens, the demons. I fell on the floor with a thump, the bed covers coming with me. My legs were tangled in them. I couldn't kick free. And then they were there. Dark shapes surged into my room, black-on-black silhouettes with hulking shoulders and big round eyes that flashed. My fear made me 5 again. I curled up against the side of the bed like I was playing hide-and-seek with my older brother Darius, hoping he wouldn't see me. But the demons knew where I was. They homed in on me like guided missiles. Rough hands grabbed me, hauled me to my feet, threw me face first on the bed. Somewhere, remotely, I heard my mother scream, heard my father cry out. The demons had come for them, too. "Mom! Dad!" I cried. I kicked and squirmed, trying to get away, but my arms were wrenched behind me and bound with a plastic zip tie that cut into my wrists. The hands pulled me up again, and I read the words on one of my captors' uniforms. Police. Homeland Security. Reality finally overrode my half-awake nightmares. No, Darius is innocent, I cried. He's not a terrorist. You don't understand. They're making him do everything. The DHS agents wrangled a thick bag over my head, and the already dark room went completely black. "No, please don't," I yelled. The black bag was close, suffocating. My hot breath was damp on my face, and I started to panic. "You can't do this. I was born in America. I'm an American citizen." The DHS agents ignored my protests. I kicked and thrashed as they dragged me from my room down the hall and out through the front door. A few days ago, all I had cared about was winning the homecoming game, getting into college, going on a date with Julia Gary, normal high school senior stuff. A few days ago, I had been king of the world. Now, I was a prisoner of the United States of America. Chapter 1. A few days ago. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you East Phoenix High School's homecoming king and queen, Cameron Smith and Julia Gary. The crowd clapped and cheered, and Julia and I descended the steps to the dance floor. Julia clung to my arm like she was never going to let me go, and I grinned at her. I spied my best friend Adam Collier in the crowd. He gave me a deep, flourishing bow like some duke at court, and I laughed. Even though Adam and I had joked around about the homecoming dance, I had to admit that being crowned king, especially alongside Julia, felt pretty amazing. When Julia and I got to the middle of the dance floor for our spotlight dance, the DJ played that old Green Day song, Time of Your Life. I put my arms around Julia's waist, and she leaned into me, laying her head on my chest. "I am, I told Julia, tucking a lock of blonde hair behind her ear. "Having the time of my life. With you." I didn't even care if it sounded cheesy. I meant every word. Julia stood on her toes to kiss me, which made my head tingle like always. I loved Julia. There, I said it. I maybe hadn't said it out loud to her yet, but she had to know it. Julia was smart, funny, and way cute. We'd been dating for 2 months, and I didn't know what we were going to do when I left Arizona for West Point next year. But this was definitely not the night to think about that. The DJ slid into a bouncing hip-hop song, and kids streamed onto the dance floor, hopping and waving their arms. Adam and some of my other football teammates and their dates surrounded us, shouting their congratulations. "Double congrats," Adam said, punching my arm. He glanced around at our teammates. "Did you all know there was a college scout at the game tonight? From the University of Colorado. Pac-12, that's big time. And Cameron put on a show for him." I shrugged and blushed. I hadn't told anybody else about the scout, not even Julia, because I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. I was committed to going to West Point and playing for Army anyway, but it had still made me play harder, knowing the scout was there in the stands. I'd had the best game of my high school career, scoring 3 touchdowns. I wouldn't have run for all those yards without the offensive line stepping up, I said. That last touchdown was me just following Antonio into the end zone. Adam scoffed. Dude, you're too modest. This guy's going to the Super Bowl one day, he told everybody. Yeah, I don't think so. No, I mean it, Adam said. He pulled out his phone and brought up a photo. Fanned out on a table were 4 oversized silver tickets, each with a picture of the Vince Lombardi trophy and Super Bowl 49 written across the top. We're going to the Super Bowl, amigo! If anything could make me stop dancing with Julia, it was that. I took the phone from Adam and stared at the screen. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. He got them? This year's Super Bowl was going to be in Arizona, right across town in Glendale. Adam's dad was a big shot at a Phoenix bank, and he'd put in for some of the tickets the company got for being corporate sponsors. But Adam and I never thought Mr. Collier would actually get them. Adam beamed. Yep, one for my dad, one for my mom, one for me, and one for you. I shook my head, still staring at the tickets. Beside me, Julia squeezed my arm. She knew how much I wanted this. But then I saw the price on one of the tickets and my eyeballs almost popped out of my head. Each ticket was $700. I was looking at $2,800 worth of football tickets, way more if you considered what you could get for scalping them once the Super Bowl teams were settled. I handed the phone back, feeling sick to my stomach. I can't, I told Adam. It just about killed me to say it. But my dad was an assistant professor at Arizona State, and my mom worked at a horse ranch out in Apache Junction. There was no way I could afford a ticket to the Super Bowl. It's taken care of, bro, Adam said. Compliments of the family Collier. Adam was an only child. I'd been like a brother to him most of my life, but still. No, I can't, really, I said again. Will you get this idiot out of here before he says no to a free ticket to the Super Bowl again? Adam asked Julia. Gladly, she said. She pulled me over to the snack table, ladling punch into cups for each of us. We sipped our drinks, my mind still spinning from Adam's offer. You should totally go, Julia told me, a smile in her voice. Don't feel guilty about it. I chuckled, grateful that she knew me so well. I put my arm around her and leaned down to kiss her again. Woo! Yeah, kissy kissy, an obnoxious voice yelled over the music. I turned around thinking somebody was making fun of us, but it was a gang of senior boys giving an underclassman and his date a hard time. The kid who'd shouted was a senior named Jeremy Vaca. We'd had a few classes together over the years. He was the kind of guy who wore backward baseball caps and pants that sagged 3 inches below the waistline of his underwear. I'd always thought he was kind of a jerk, but he'd never bothered me, so I never paid much attention to him. Oh, God, Julia said, nodding toward the underclassmen. Seamus, Laurie, and Anne Henry. Who, the little guys? You know them? The girl Anne was petite and red-haired, wearing a modest white dress with a big pink bow on the back. Seamus was short and gangly, with a huge ball of curly brown hair that circled his head like a space helmet. He was exactly the type of guy who attracted bullies, and he hadn't helped matters by overdressing for the homecoming dance. He wore a powder blue tuxedo with a white ruffly shirt. They're in the fall play with me, Julia said. They're super sweet. Jeremy flicked a finger at Seamus's ruffled shirt. Nice tuxedo, dorkwad. You two look like you're going to a dork wedding. You don't have to marry her, you know. Jeremy shoved Seamus aside. Can I cut in? He grabbed Anne around the waist, laughing in her face. Anne scowled and tried to twist away from Jeremy, but Seamus only stared helplessly at the ground. God, had I ever been that small? I couldn't watch anymore. I pulled away from Julia and pushed in between Jeremy and Anne. All right, Vaca, you've had your fun, I said. Why don't you leave them alone? Jeremy took a step back, looking at me like I was something his dog had barfed up on the carpet. And why don't you mind your own business? He said. Towelhead.